trade a contingent of Jets team officials. A who's who. Owner Woody Johnson, general manager Joe Douglas, head coach Robert Saleh, offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, who's very familiar with Rodgers, and he with Hackett, flew to California yesterday to meet in person with Aaron Rodgers. In response, some Jets players tweeted the following. Running back Breece Hall, don't mind me just manifesting Aaron Rodgers 12. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Sauce Gardner. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, I promise if you become a Jet, I won't pick you off in practice, and I'll burn the cheesehead. And tackle Mekhi Becton tagged Rodgers using the peeping eyes emoji. And do we have a full house? It is a party in studio today. 9-year NFL vet, former VP of the NFLPA. And by the way, author of the brand new book. What's the title of the book?
Change Starts With You.
Change Starts With You. That is Sam Acho, ladies and gentlemen. Coach Herm Edwards. You know him. You love him. And speaking of knowing and loving, there's NFL reporter Kimberly A. Martin. K. Martin, what's the latest on Rodgers?
The Jets are back from California. The question of this timeline, though, that remains to be seen. Everybody's waiting to hear when Aaron Rodgers will make his decision, and the Jets are waiting too. This was really a get-to-know-you situation. Hey, Aaron, I'm Robert. I'm Joe. Nice to meet you. Also, you could be a star here. They have to convince him to come here, but there's no real timeline on this, even though free agency starts next week.
Remember what Eddie Murphy said about the ice cream man, how he always drove the extra block just to see if he could get the little kids to run? Unless Rodgers is doing that, like, let me see if I can get everyone in the Jets world, like, on a plane. Unless he's doing that, come on, man, you don't have them fly all the way out to California if you are not dead serious. I love the fit of Rodgers on the Jets. I mean, I love Lamar on the Jets, too. That's another story. But Rodgers on the Jets, just like that. Let's not forget, if Rodgers is right, because the last time he had an off year, by his standards, he won back-to-back MVP. If he's right, well, that's an answer for Patrick Mahomes or anybody, right? As good as anybody. Coach, you are very familiar with this organization. How do you like the fit of Rodgers on this team?
Well, it's a good fit, and here's the reason why it's really a good fit for Aaron Rodgers. Nathaniel Hackett. He's familiar with Aaron. Aaron's familiar with him. They had a great relationship in Green Bay, won some MVP awards there. And so it would be an easy transition for Aaron Rodgers. He would know the offense. He would trust the offensive coordinator calling the plays. Everyone would have to catch up on offense because Aaron already knows the offense. Now, how much time he'll spend in the building, that's a whole different question. But you're talking about an offense last year that scored only 17 points a game. They were in a division, AFC East, obviously. Everyone outscored them. Miami Dolphins, the Bills, the Patriots even. So they were low offensively, scoring points, red zone, third down. He walks into your building, he energizes your whole football team. There's no doubt about that.
And there's no question everyone looks at the Jets' defense and goes, oh, they're ready to win now. But they have ascending offensive players, Sacho. And on the other hand, Rodgers just spent a whole season bringing along talented but raw young receiving core that they just fell a game short. But what are the chances he just returns to Green Bay? I mean, he set the table. Doesn't he want to eat?
Well, to your point, there's nothing to bring back. When you talk about the Jets specifically, those young players are ready, right? Like, that's kind of part A. But part B, returning to Green Bay, I don't see him going back to Green Bay. Like all that we've seen the last few years. I've been at ESPN for 2 years. Since I got here, we've been talking about, is Aaron Rodgers staying or going, right? It seems like it's been a lot longer. That's all we've seen. And I feel like if I'm tired of it, I'm sure that the actual brass and the Green Bay Packers, they're probably tired of it as well, which is why they're letting him go and meet with other teams, even though he's under contract. And so I don't think it's likely that Aaron Rodgers goes back to Green Bay. I think that's pretty much at the bottom of the list.
It's a stormy romance between the Packers and Aaron Rodgers.
So, all right, we agree he ain't going to be a Packer. Is he going to be a Jet, Coach? Let's do it quick.
I think he is.
Oh, Herm Edwards, ladies and gentlemen. Kimberly?
I do, only because if you're going to retire, why even entertain this meeting unless you just want to hear somebody say how great you are and how much they love you?
Sacho?
I would say yes. I think he will end up in New York.
I agree. And the Packers, if they had knowledge now of this past season last year, they wouldn't have brought him back. They didn't make the playoffs and spend all that money. They could have developed Jordan Love. I don't think he's going back to Green Bay. I think he's going to be a Jet. The Ravens officially placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on quarterback Lamar Jackson. Lamar is now able to negotiate with other teams, and Baltimore has the right to match an offer to take 2 first-round picks as compensation. Field Yates tweeted out a list of teams reportedly out on Lamar Jackson. They're not pursuing him. The Falcons, Dolphins, Panthers, Commanders, and Raiders are all on the list. J.J. Watt tweeted, I think astutely, why are all of these teams so publicly out on Lamar Jackson, an MVP winner in his prime, and the most important position in the entire NFL? What am I missing here? Well, let me tell you what tips it off for me, whether or not people believe that the owners are colluding. And by the way, you have to be naive. The way business works, the players can't talk in this business. And you think agents aren't testing the waters to find out what your market is ahead of time, and owners aren't talking? Of course, there's a lot of communication, but that's difficult to prove. Here's the big smoking gun for me, guys. If you are out on a player, you don't publicly announce it when your rival could then overpay if they think they're bidding against you. You want to drive the market up if you're being competitive from an on-the-field point of view, right? Because the other team overpays for him. They can't put as good a team around him, right? The only reason teams rush to say they're out on a guy is if they're putting their business interests ahead of their competitive interests. They want to, no, let's not let these guys think Deshaun Watson's the market. We're out. That drives the market down. Whether or not it's collusion, you are putting your business interests ahead of your competitive interests. Kimberly, what's going on here with these multiple teams leaking within 5 minutes, basically?
Well, I can tell you, because we all, as insiders, are reaching out to high-level execs to get a sense. Even in Washington, that's a place where I see Lamar Jackson. You have a franchise where you've got people on the hot seat. That makes sense. But from what I've been told, he hasn't been mentioned in the building yet. I would hope that the market would improve for Lamar Jackson because it makes no logical sense for a guy in his prime, a unanimous MVP, a guy who's 45-16 in his career, to not draw any interest whatsoever, especially on the same day as Daniel Jones getting 40 a year. But people texted me from across the league with the word collusion. You cannot prove it, but just think about how teams reacted to. We know that teams were very upset when the Browns gave Deshaun Watson that $320 million guaranteed deal.
Including who? The owner of the Baltimore Ravens, who was on the record about it.
The 31 other owners were all upset. So all those factors taken into account, plus that people do have differing views on Lamar's talent versus Deshaun. There are people across the league who think Deshaun is a better football player, better quarterback than Lamar. So that also plays into it. And the guaranteed money, no one wants to give that.
Coach?
This is puzzling for me. I've been in the league a long time as a player and as a coach. And for this to come out this fast about, I'm out. I've never seen that in free agency. I've never even heard of anything like this. And we have teams actually saying we're out. It doesn't even start till Monday.
Teams that need
Yes.
QBs that were even teams that were in on Deshaun Watson last year. Yeah.
When is a 26-year-old quarterback in his prime who's won an MVP, who every time he's on the field, basically you win, and when he's off the field, you lose, right? When has he ever even hit the market, let alone people are passing on him like this?
I don't understand it. It's just when I thought people were kidding when they said these teams are already announcing they're out. I said, it's not even started yet. How can you be out?
You were a player and a coach for many years in different organizations in the NFL. You were the VP of the NFLPA. What do you think here, Sacho?
I'm puzzled and surprised as well until I think about this one point, what happened last year. What happened last year, Deshaun Watson got a fully guaranteed contract. Okay. And that's the first piece. But if went and got my MBA, you start learning about these things called the law of the first follower, right? Somebody does one thing, that's okay. But when somebody follows it, all of a sudden it becomes a trend. So if you get one guaranteed contract, it's an anomaly, fully guaranteed. But now all of a sudden the second one comes. Now all of a sudden you have proof. There becomes this trend. And so I think the only logical explanation for me is that teams are saying, I'm not willing to give you a fully guaranteed contract. I'm going to put my love of my money and this precedent and this power over this player. And that's what I'm seeing. I can't even ask a rhetorical question. The answer to the rhetorical question is, we're not willing to give you these fully guaranteed contracts, point blank, period.
And if we see another peach suit on national TV, we know that you have started a trend. That would be a trend.
Be the first follower. Somebody give me a follower. Give me one more. Give me one more. Make it look good, though.
So, Kimberly, you heard what Sacho had to say. What teams are still in on Lamar?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
As of right now,
Baltimore?
It's Baltimore, And that's when we talk about Lamar not having an agent, it's being able to gauge the market and what people are willing to do. I do think as we get closer to free agency, what happens with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets could have an impact. Like, I think the Jets should be in on Lamar Jackson. If you're going to be in on a 40,
God, yes.
Yes. So I do think this is not, I don't think that Lamar will have nobody else besides the Ravens. But as of today, teams have sort of said,
Listening to Sock show you especially, whether or not it is technically collusion, and I think it's naive to think there's not communication, but whether or not that's provable, what we see is what you're saying. Teams are putting their business interest in terms of towing the line at guaranteed money for quarterbacks. They're saying, look at Kyler Murray, that's the market. We insist that Deshaun Watson never actually happened. It happened.